All right, welcome in the latest episode of Ethan Skolnick, starting 9 here every Tuesday and Wednesday. We were with you yesterday as well with a special episode, so make sure you check that on the YouTube channel. Also, if you missed any Heat coverage from last night, the new 5 on the floor is up. It should be up on the channel as well soon, but it's on the podcast feeds. Went through it with Greg and Alex with the Heat's win in Washington as they continue to roll against teams in their division. Also, Post Up 5R went live after the game last night, too, so you can check that out. And we've got streams all week on the NBA trade deadline. Don't know if the Heat's going to do anything. My guess is probably no, and if it is, it'll probably be a small move. It's not going to be anything to rip this core of the team apart. So those who want Duncan Robinson traded, I don't think that's actually happening this week, but there could be a consolidation trade, maybe a KZ Okpala, Markieff Morris, maybe Yurt, maybe a pick. Maybe try to get yourself some PJ Tucker protection as a backup 4 with Morris's situation right now. Also, check out the streams. We've got a Bahama Rican Boys and Feel the Heat crossover that's coming up tonight. We've also got a Clutch Corner on Wednesday. So Manny hit it right, our producer Manny Chang. Hit the like and subscribe button. You don't have to smash it. I know that's Dono's thing, but you can tap it. And make sure that you're subscribed to everything, because we're also going to have probably, I think, a Floor is Yours tonight. We haven't confirmed that, but there's going to be plenty of content on the channel over the next 3 days leading up to the trade deadline. I apologize for that. I don't know if you're saying that because now you have to produce Floor is Yours, Manny, or because that's a Dono thing. We're going to have Louis Sung on the show today, though. We're going to talk Dolphins. We're also going to have Mike Thompson on the show. He's a big Dolphins fan. He also happens to work over at Intense Nutrition. We've told you about them a bunch. We're going to let Mike talk about them when he comes in. But we are sponsored also today by Signs Broward of Fort Lauderdale. Go to signsbrowardfortlauderdale.com. This is a one-stop shop for everything signs. They'll design it for you. They'll even repair it for you. We know what happens down here with the weather in South Florida at times. The phone number is 954-791-8685. 954-791-8685. If any of you kind of crawl around to the restaurants here on Las Olas, you will see a lot of their signs. They do business with a lot of the companies down here, including Piazza's Italian restaurant that you may know down here, which is kind of the hub of the street at this point. Again, they handle everything for you from beginning to end. Mention 5 reasons and you get a discount as well. It's signsbrowardfortlauderdale.com, signsbrowardfortlauderdale.com. Check out their gallery and everything that they do there, but they do all kinds of cool signs. Pretty much, if you're in South Florida, you've driven by one of their signs. Pretty good chance of that. Check out signsbrowardfortlauderdale.com. All right, let's get to it. Mike McDaniel was on a plane yesterday. He's fired up, so Dolphin fans are fired up. And look, I'm excited about this. This was the guy that I thought they should go for of the choices that were remaining at this point. There's still the cloud of the Brian Flores situation that's hanging over the franchise. Can't get past that. And it's going to be interesting to see. And I don't know if I'm allowed to announce it, so I'm not going to announce exactly when it is. But I'll be at the press conference when it happens. And it'll be interesting to see when Steve Ross is asked about other things, how he handles it. My guess is probably that's a pending litigation and I can't discuss it, or something will be said at the beginning of the press conference. Please don't ask anything about the pending litigation. If there are news reporters there, they're probably not going to listen to that. And that's kind of what happens when, as has happened many times with the Dolphins, whether it was Bullygate or whether it was Cokegate or whether it was any of the other gates that the Dolphins have had in recent years, that the national reporters start to get involved in it. And by that, I don't just mean the sports reporters, I mean the news reporters, because this was a national story with Brian Flores and it was up there on CNN. It feels like it's faded a little bit, but it's probably going to get brought up at the press conference. And Mike McDaniel maybe asked something about it. Not that he has anything to do with Brian Flores, but he's coming into a situation that was perceived to be challenging. And how is he going to handle that? But mostly people are excited about this, and you're allowed to be excited. I mean, Dolphin fans, haven't had anything to be excited about probably in about 25 years. And so if something, that looks promising happens, you're allowed to hope traffic. We hope traffic on the Heat side. Most of that turns out to be legitimate. On the Dolphin side, it doesn't. But have your day, okay? Be excited about Mike McDaniel being hired, because at least, and I understand that this goes to a pattern that the Dolphins have had where they've hired first-time head coaches and that hasn't worked out very well. But I have said, and I said on yesterday's episode, that I don't think it's really fair to compare this to Adam Gase. And for the reason of, I think it's a personality difference. This guy seems to be self-deprecating. He seems to be able to poke a little fun at himself. I feel like that helps you with players. Adam Gase, the smartest man in the room syndrome. It's one thing to be the smartest man in the room. It's the other to let everybody know about it. And Adam Gase kind of did that, and he didn't turn out to be the smartest man in the room, by the end. McDaniel may be, but it doesn't seem like he throws that in your face. And I think that will be beneficial for him going forward. So have your day, but we're going to talk about where they go now, because once you're the head coach, there are some issues that need to be resolved with this team. Okay. And clearly he convinced the Dolphins that he can start addressing some of them, starting, I would assume, with the offense, starting, I would assume, with the rushing offense. I know everybody's focusing on Tua, but I mean, literally, this team hasn't run the ball well since what? Jay Ajayi's 2016? And Tua is not going to be effective in the way you want him to be effective unless you have a running game that's a threat. Now, I don't know if that means they need to draft one high. I've never been a huge proponent of that, but I've sort of come around a little bit the past couple of years as I've seen them pass on MVP candidates that were drafted in the first couple of rounds at the running back position. So, if you have to take one early, maybe you take one early. But even if you don't, we saw that in San Francisco, McDaniel made it work with kind of, average running backs. I don't think you should strive for average, and I think it's positive when a guy can actually make do with average, right? So I'd like to see them upgrade the position. I'd like to see Duke Johnson come back in some role, and we'll see if he does now. But mostly, more than anything else, I'd like to see an emphasis on it so that, and obviously this guy was a run game coordinator for 4 years. So I'd like to see an emphasis on it so that Tua has the best chance to succeed. You can't run play action. You can't run RPO if there's no R. And there's been no R on this team. So it needs to start there, which means it also needs to start in the trenches, and it needs to start with Tua not getting killed. And the one place that obviously they do need to upgrade is on the offensive line. And I would say pretty much it's Robert Hunt for me, and the rest of them you look for upgrades. I mean, if some of them develop, if Eichenberg is better in his second season, or if they find, that Dieter can be an effective, one of their top 6 or 7, or Austin Jackson. And I know our guys at 3 yards per carry have said that this run scheme may actually fit him better. Maybe not a tackle, but maybe a guard. If Austin Jackson can be salvaged here, then, that would be great work by McDaniel. We've seen coaches salvage certain players, but he deserves the opportunity to go over this roster with Chris Greer, who built it, okay, in large degree, along with Brian Flores, and see who he wants to keep and who he doesn't want to keep. But I do think that more than anything else, the emphasis needs to be on the run game. It needs to be on the run game. They have, an emerging receiver. Okay, now what they do with the other receivers, they clearly need to upgrade to guys who actually play. I kind of feel bad for some of the Will Fuller slander because obviously his finger is still effed up. The Dolphins could have certainly been a little bit more forthcoming about that situation, which would have saved Will Fuller a lot of grief in the media, but I don't want to anticipate that Will Fuller is going to be back anyway. I mean, he got $2.5 million per catch. Go retire. But anyway, what we're going to talk to Lewis today again is about where McDaniel goes first, because winning the press conference is going to be easy for this guy. I mean, other than the Flores stuff that may come up, like everybody wants to like him, McDaniel, and his clips are likable. And if he has a little personality, that's great. But I want to caution you about one thing when it comes to the personality, okay? Because we've seen this in pressers. If you take a look at Manny Diaz's situation with the Canes, he won me over early with his personality, and it was like, it was the transfer portal stuff, but more so than that, it was kind of the social media stuff and everything else. And we saw that like it was like fluff, not facts, right? I mean, there really wasn't anything behind it. The Emperor really didn't have any clothes there. So I would just caution people, like everybody's going to get hyped about McDaniel because he doesn't look like the traditional coach. He doesn't act like the traditional coach. I mean, he's basically out of an episode of like the sequel to Dazed and Confused. I mean, or he's McLovin, or he's Napoleon Dynamite. I mean, there's all the nicknames that are out there, or he just fixed my laptop last week. But the thing is, like, that's not enough. Like, to have some personality and to please the media, which has been beaten down by years of uninteresting, not forthcoming, somewhat rude coaches here, whether it was Flores or Gase. I mean, Philbin had no personality. Like, everybody got excited about Man Campbell, right? Dan Campbell for like a few weeks because he was running the Oklahoma drill and he spoke, in these tough guy terms. I mean, how's that working out in Detroit? How'd it work out here? I mean, personality matters inside the rooms. Personality matters with your players. It matters your ability to kind of loosen up and make fun of yourself. And I think this guy will be good at that. But the way that McDaniel projects himself to the fans and media, it will be fun, but I don't think it ultimately matters. So don't get too caught up in it. That's all I'm saying. But if we end up printing up some t-shirts, buy them, before you calm down. So you can certainly do that. All right, let's get to Lewis here. Before we do, we're just going to mention, and then we're going to bring on Mike, I believe, a little bit later in the show. Intense Nutrition. You see this stuff? This is the type of thing that you get in Intense Nutrition. These are our friends up in Coral Springs, and it's 20% off everything in the store. Mike's going to talk about it. But again, this is pre-workout stuff. This is if you want to, put on a little weight. They've also got the stacks to help you lose weight. Intense Nutrition. Check out the Instagram. Check out the Facebook. They're at 954-775-0257. 954-775-0257. But I believe Mike's going to be here in the flesh here. Well, not actually. I mean, it's actually on a StreamYard link, but he's going to be here pretty soon. Actually, he just confirmed. So he'll be here about 9:25. But first, we've got our guy, Louis Sung. You can follow him at Louis D. Sung on Twitter. We continue the Dolphins conversation here this week. Louis, I'm making the point here that Mike McDaniel's going to win the press conference because Dolphin fans Dolphin fans want something to be happy about because there's been so little. But also he has personality. It may be a dry wit. It may be self-deprecating wit, but there is a personality there. With Brian Flores, it was very difficult to get to the personality. With Adam Gase, I'm not sure a lot of people liked the personality the more that they saw it. And with Joe Philbin, I mean, there wasn't really any personality. So
dry toast. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, you're really going, and with Saban, there was a domineering personality. It was, but it wasn't a fun personality. But I mean, he was must see TV at the beginning, at least, because you didn't kind of know what he was going to say or who he was going to go off on. And you have to go all the way back to and Wannstedt was personality because it was kind of funny. Some of the things he would say accidentally, some of his, know what I mean? And and all the rest of that. It's really Jimmy's the last one who's had like true, I mean, Tony Sperano, may he rest in peace. And I like Tony a lot. He was a little introverted, actually. He was kind of contrary to the image that maybe his body projected. Okay. Where you looked at him as like this tough guy, but Tony was actually kind of a softie in a lot of ways, at least publicly. Jimmy was the last one who had like strong personality. This guy has a personality I think people are going to gravitate towards, but I'm just trying to caution everybody that like, not to get too swept up in that, right? Like, because I feel like we're going to hear in the next 24 hours, as soon as the press conference, they hired the right guy. He seems he's so different than everybody else. But ultimately, it comes down to working the best you can with the roster that you have.
Yeah, in the end of the day, it's going to come down to results because you can have a fantastic personality. This is something that the Dolphins do all the time, right? They get a guy, and then when it doesn't work, they go to the antithesis of that guy.
Yeah.
So Joe Philbin, boring as all get out. Even when he was trying to have fun, it didn't look like he was having fun. We all remember the dancing on stage clip. That was awkward as all get out. So they went and get Adam Gase, who is supposedly somebody who has a much bigger personality. He sees things a certain way. He apparently treats people a certain way, and that didn't go very well. So then they go and get Brian Flores. And at the time, Brian Flores seemed humble. He seemed like he was willing to look at things in an opposite direction of Adam Gase. And in a way, yeah, because Gase talked too much. Flores didn't talk enough. And that was kind of what screwed him over in Miami, at least with the fans and the media. Because, for instance, the Will Fuller stuff that just came out.
Yeah.
Why do you keep saying he's day-to-day when you obviously know that his finger is not coming back?
Right.
Like what does that accomplish? What does the enigma do for you other than frustrate people? Or was that the point? Right. And so you have that. Now we get Mike McDaniel. He's the antithesis. Yeah, it's a hard word to say. Antithesis of Brian Flores. He's the guy who he's another big personality, unlike Flores. He has snark. He's sarcastic, but sarcastic in almost the way a comedian would be, like in a funny way. So I am sure that his connection, at least at first, with the media and with the fans is going to be a lot stronger because if he's more open, if he's more honest, that goes a long way with building that trust. Now the question is, yes, the players, are they going to respond to that? I have no reason to believe they won't. because again, we still have glowing reviews, and it's not just from Peyton Manning said Adam Gase, and that's pretty much the only thing we hang our hat on. Pretty much everybody has come out and said Mike McDaniel's amazing. The fullback for the 49ers, I'm not even going to bother to try to say his name.
Yeah.
So other former players who used to play with him, like that 1 year in Cleveland with Andrew Hawkins, that it came out. He had his best year of his entire career by far, and he credited Mike McDaniel for that, and it fell right off the map again as soon as McDaniel left. And again, George Kittle came out to say stuff about McDaniel. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay. So everywhere you look, this guy has glowing reviews, and it's not one person. So there's a lot more to be excited about with him. Now, yeah, the personality thing is going to be great. Now, what he needs to do, he's going to look at the roster. I'm sure he's already looked at the roster, at least on paper. He's already started to watch film, I'm sure. But really what he needs to do now, the first thing he needs to do, he needs to put together his staff. And if nothing, he may already have a staff on defense, which is fine if that's what he wants to do. I know there are reports that he wants to hire Vic Fangio. I don't know how much of that is actually he's out there asking Vic, hey, do you want to come? Or if he's this is just connecting the dots because they share the same agent. But if he could get Fangio, that's pretty much the only scenario where I would replace Boyer at this point. Not because Boyer is anything particularly special, but only because the Dolphins defense, the players that are already there, this is the way they like to play defense. They have already proven they can function in that role. If Vic Fangio comes in, I am not too worried that Fangio is just going to suddenly uproot the entire defense. I think if he's truly the elite defensive coordinator that everybody says that he is, I would hope that he has the wherewithal to notice that, you know what, maybe my usual zone scheme isn't going to work with the personnel I have. Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, they thrive in man coverage. So I would hope that he's willing to change up his scheme a little bit and be like, okay, let me make this work. Because you don't become an elite defensive coordinator by just hand choosing a bunch of players and saying, okay, now let's build my defense. Because that means the first year that you're there, you have to entirely change your roster.
But we've seen that so many times here with the Dolphins. That's been one of the frustrations, is that every 3 years they have to go get totally different types of players. I mean, you go from I think of 07 to 08 when, Cam Cameron wanted fast, smaller Ted Ginn types, and then Parcells and Sperano and Ireland come in and it's, big, tough discipline. Like that was their whole thing, right? Like, and all of a sudden they're going out and getting these 330-pound prototypes. Okay. And they've got, so I do think that having some continuity makes sense. I'm with you on the defense. I think Fangio would be the only guy. I think on the offense, I kind of raised this point earlier, Lewis, and I think it has to start with the run game, and by that I don't just mean a running back. I feel it has to start with the run game totally. It feels like that was probably what McDaniel sold himself in a lot of ways. Beyond the Tua thing, is that I can build a run game that's supportive of Tua that we haven't had here. Really, I mean, the Dolphins really haven't had a run game of any significance since 2016 with Ajayi, and so that we're going to do that. So I ask you this question because it's kind of, you can go either way with this. You can say, well, you can kind of get by with average running backs with a guy like McDaniel who can scheme it up because he did that in San Francisco. There's nobody elite in San Francisco as a running back. You can do that with him. And so you don't need to go get the top 2-round running back. Or do you go to the other way and say, well, now we got a guy who can really exploit in the run game. Let's go get a back. Let's go get a bell cow back for him. Like, which direction do you go there?
Well, seeing as I've watched the Myles Gaskins and the Savon Ahmeds of the world try and fail to get the job done at this point, I am sure that Gaskin will compete in training camp, and we'll see what happens. And maybe maybe Mike McDaniel unlocks the true Myles Gaskin, and I'm sure that Juan Cardona will be thrilled to see it happen because he was the Gaskin guy, the guy who says that, hey man, he had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. Whatever. Maybe he gets something out of him, which is great if that's the case. But I would love to see the Dolphins go out and get someone like a Kenneth Walker or an Isaiah Spiller. Just somebody that we can point to and say, this guy is actually legitimately talented. All these running backs that have come out of the draft lately, I don't think it's all because of their scheme. Some of these guys are just good. We could have had Javonte Williams. We didn't get him. We could have had, what's his name? Michael Carter. We didn't get him. We could have had J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor. We could have had DeAndre Swift. Didn't get him. Why? Oh, we're happy with Gaskin. No, not anymore. I want a talented running back. And mind you, if the scheme is so important, but other than Laken Tomlinson, who's going to be shaking loose from San Francisco, assuming they don't re-sign him, it's not like that offensive line is absolutely loaded from left to right with absolute studs, right? There are guys who are there, all right, they're good, they're decent. And if decent is all you need to make the scheme work, then I suspect that Mike McDaniel can find a way to make that happen. Now, this is where the offensive line comes in. So important. We got to buy our offensive line, personally, I think. So if you can re-sign Laken Tomlinson, who knows the McDaniel running scheme, that would be fantastic. That would be like having, first of all, you have a guy who can perform in that scheme right off the bat. Number two, you have a guy who can show, no, do it like this. That would be fantastic. So that's going to be, now it's going to be priority one for me for the Dolphins, even more so than someone like a Teron Armstead or something like that, because now I keep hearing how it's about the fit. It's about what it is that the 49ers do that's so unique that all of a sudden now all of these players that you could have signed, suddenly they don't fit the scheme anymore. I'm like, okay, so now I have to reevaluate what the free agency plan here is. And so now what the Dolphins need to do, yes, get a running back, because talent makes a difference. Ask the Indianapolis Colts if talent makes a difference at running back. So now now the Dolphins just need to get the offensive line, which, by the way, back to coaching staff. Why is Lemuel Jean-Pierre still here? That's just the honest truth. That should have been his first step. Like, give this man the pink slip. Get out.
I don't you feel like, I feel like that's going to be, we're going to see that start to happen here later this week. Like, I'm not going to give away when the press conference is. I think most people can figure out it's going to be in the next couple of days, but I do think that after that happens, there's going to be some quiet moves made on Friday afternoon, at about 5:00 that are going to be sent out. This person are no longer with the Miami Dolphins. I just, I feel like, especially with the way the organization has done things of late, and then the news that they've made, I feel like they want to at least, the perception that, okay, we're giving everybody a fair look here, right? And allow the new guy to come in. But no, is he going to keep an offensive line coach who clearly, they when he did that press conference, they buried you couldn't find the video afterwards, like, because it just was like, okay, now this explains why Tua is running for his life, okay? Because you saw that press conference with a coach who just clearly wasn't equipped.
The only guy who didn't show up in the transcripts was Jean-Pierre.
Right. So I feel like that's going to go. I feel like on the defensive staff, a lot of it does feel like it comes down from Boyer, where if you're going to keep him, I think more of those other guys are kept. Gerald Alexander to me seems like a guy that you would want to keep. There are others on that staff that it seems like you want to keep. But I think the new coach has the right. There's always the question of whether, who has control over personnel on a staff. But there's not a question of who has control of the coaching staff. Like the coaching staff, the coach should be able to coach with the coaches that he's comfortable with. He's going to be in the meeting rooms with them. They need to be aligned with him. And so Mike McDaniel deserves that opportunity. And the other thing about Mike McDaniel is, we look at him as this young guy, right? Like 38 years old. But unlike when Eric Spoelstra took the Heat job at 38, or unlike when, Flores came here a little bit older than that, Mike McDaniel's been in a bunch of different organizations. It's not like Spoelstra was just with the Heat or Flores was just with the Patriots. Like, Mike McDaniel has been around. He knows a lot of people at age 38. And so there may be coaches you and I have not even considered that he sees maybe himself in, possibly, and he wants to elevate that coach. Let me ask you this, and I think we are getting Mike on here momentarily, but let me just ask you this before you go, and we appreciate following him at Louis D. Sung. One thing that, because again, talk is cheap, we know that, and a lot of coaches have said a lot of things out here. But if there's one thing that your ears will perk up if Mike McDaniel says during his press conference, what is it?
that he's going to change the way the offense functions. That's just the reality of it. I want a balanced offense, not in the sense that, oh, there's a ratio of running the ball and passing the ball. I want an offense that can do either at any given moment, because the Dolphins tried to have a balanced offense in the sense that, oh, do they just keep handing the ball off and they keep ramming into a wall to get 1 yard, and then they expect Tua to walk on water and fix the problem. Again, I have had it up to here with the savior complex. Get a team that functions. That's all he's got to do. If he can get them to run 3-4 yards a carry, just consistently being able to move the football, and it doesn't look like you're pulling teeth to do it, that's all I need. That's all I need.
I mean, I'm with you. I mean, they got a defense that functions. It took them a long time this season to get back to it, but they found it. But you're right. I mean, on offense, I think we just want to be in a position where we're not like after a play saying, who the hell called that one? Like that was our reaction to so much of what happened last year. Like,
oh yeah, and personnel. It's like it took the last game of the year, the absolute final game of the year, for somebody other than Jesse Davis to play right tackle, and immediately Robert Jones looked better. Like it wasn't even like it wasn't like, oh, he's a superstar or anything, but it's like, considering how low Jesse Davis was on that role, it didn't take much for Jones to be like, I'm better at this, and why did you wait all season for this to happen? And so that's the other thing I need to see somebody. And again, there's no way that McDaniel can prove it with words. He's gonna have to show it. But if I can see that McDaniel is using the personnel in a way that makes sense, that's logical, and if he sees that somebody's struggling, you don't keep him in there and hope and pray that today's the day that the light turns on. That's what I want.
All right. Well, we want you to follow Louis DeSung. Go ahead and do that right now. He's wearing the cool hat too. You can get that at 5reasonsports.com. And of course, we'll have coverage of the Mike McDaniel press conference as soon as that comes out. Louis, we appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
All right. I think, let me see if our producer Manny Chang can dial him up here. We've got Mike Thompson, I believe, from Intense. Oh my God. Look at you. Like, you are all decked out. You didn't screw around here.
That's what I'm about, man. You know, you gotta live and breathe the culture. That's the idea.
I feel like that's going to be a Heat marketing slogan here. You need to live and breathe the culture.
They can borrow it. I mean, if they want to slide me something under the table, I wouldn't say no, but I'm not going to say yes.
All right. Well, I just want to make sure the culture requires you to be parked when you do this. This is our friend Mike Thompson over at Intense Nutrition with much cooler shades than I've got. We're gonna talk about Intense Nutrition here in a second, but I just want to go to this. You're a big Dolphin fan. I know you follow 3 yards per carry. This is our sponsors corner. We're going to start to introduce some sponsors here on Starting Nine. Just give me your initial impressions of the Mike McDaniel presser. I'll just ask you the same question I asked Louis. What do you want to hear from him?
I don't really want to hear much. I'd rather, like he was saying, I'd rather see if he can bring even a fraction of the running success that he was able to develop over in San Francisco. I mean, that's the key to any good balanced team, is to be able to run the ball. I mean, you look at the teams in the championship, when the Rams were struggling, it's because they weren't able to really get into it. But once they were able to start getting back to that running game, Stafford takes off because it opens up the middle of the field. So if he can get some kind of success like that, I mean, if you look at what happened in Alabama with Tua, he was able to really flourish when that running game was opening it up, and like he was saying, trying to have him walk on water down here, it's just silly. I mean, you compare him to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert, which isn't fair, because I mean, those teams are built completely different schemes, everything like that, but their players make more plays than what Miami did. Just look at the end of the season. Duke Johnson comes in and starts doing well after everything, and then all of a sudden it's like Myles Gaskin who, Salvan Ahmed who, it's Duke Johnson showing that he was better. Same with Phillip Lindsay. So hopefully they can bring that kind of success down here.
Yeah, bringing running backs off the street and having them be your starters is probably not the best approach to this. Of course, they forgot Duke Johnson in the Tennessee game also, which wasn't great, and suddenly forgot Forgot what they had. Mike, before we get to intense nutrition here, and please again watch the road. I will just because we've never had a crash on starting nine. We've had a system crash. We haven't had a car crash.
Luckily, it's relatively open, so it's not too bad.
You left after 9 o'clock. But I do one more thing here on the Fins. What is your best? How many years, first thing, have you been a Fins fan?
Gosh, I really started getting into them when they traded for Ricky Williams way back when.
Okay. Well, that was actually my 6th year covering the team, so you're dating me a little bit here, Thompson. But that's okay.
Just putting it out there.
Give me one moment that made you smile about the Dolphins. This has been difficult for people.
So there's a few actually that really, because I've been going to games for a long time now, and one of the moments actually happened in preseason.
Okay.
And it was when Cam Wake first got here, where I was sitting. I wasn't sure who was next to me, but the people looked familiar. And my brother, my father, and myself at the game. And my brother starts talking to, it was a young lady, a middle-aged woman, and an elderly lady all sitting together. And my brother's like, "Oh, who are you rooting for?" And she's like, "Number 91, that's my brother." So we wound up sitting next to Cam Wake's family. So it was really awesome.
Oh, there you go. All right. See, for most Dolphin fans, it's actually a personal moment. All right. I got to get to the gym before I go anywhere. And I just want to tell people about this stuff. I'm working through it, Mike. I'm taking this. Okay. All this stuff. You can get all of this at Intense Nutrition. Tell me why. I try to give the pitch here. It's in Coral Springs over on University Drive. Check out the Instagram, the Facebook, 954-775-0257. But real quick here, give me your 30-second pitch. Why should people come to Intense Nutrition?
Because unfortunately, a lot of the other companies out there treat this industry like it's cookie cutter, and it does not work that way. Because what would work for you or for me will not work for anybody else. So we're able to understand your goals and give you and guide you towards what's going to work best for you. And we actually just had a listener from Texas who did our intense cleanse and detox. And during the 10 days that he did it, he lost 18 pounds.
Wow.
And he loved it so much, he actually bought his brother the same thing. So cool. What we do, it works. As long as you heed the advice, we'll get you right. And that's the thing, is we make, because it's not about business. There's no commission on anything. What we're selling you is stuff that we find works. And if you have a suggestion, we're always willing to listen. We bring things in for our customers all the time. So we make it so that way it's personal, and that's what that's our goal, is to build the relationship. You can come once or twice. We would love that, but what we love most is when we got our customers that have been coming for years. And that's our goal, is to keep you happy, keep you satisfied for what we do, and keep you coming back.
All right. Well, I need some refills here soon, so I'm going to get out there as my birthday resolution this week to keep this thing going. Mike, we appreciate it. Check out Intense Nutrition. Stay safe on the road. 954-775-0257. Check out the Facebook. Check out the Instagram. And
website is coming soon too.
Well, I would like to be able to promote that, so let's jump on that. We'll get everybody out to the store at Coral Springs. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Take care.
All right. Thanks to Manny for producing. Thanks for Louie for coming on. Thanks to our other sponsor today, Science Broward, Fort Lauderdale. Make sure you go to prizepicks.com, the official sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network from the fantasy side, and use the code 5 FIVE to sign up. We'll be back tomorrow. Have a good day.